the request for fiscal year 2009 is now in real terms higher than historically any year in history of the United States, except for World War II. So since World War II, all through the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Gulf Crisis in '91, and the like, we're now spending more on military spending than we have historically at any point in time. And the U.S. budget also is close, I think, if not higher than the combined spending of all other countries globally as well.
Does that even include the supplemental allocations?
No, that doesn't even include the supplemental allocations for the wars. Yeah.
So the Iraq War is not part of this budget request.
Right, exactly.
That's just the basic budget.
So even, I think the general public is not aware of that fact that Bush has conducted the entire war with off-budget money and has never forced anybody to come to reckon. And it's a very dishonest way of proceeding.
I think the public is unaware because we've been made intentionally unaware. That's why they took that approach, and there was a little bit of a battle in Congress for a short time, didn't last very long, about trying to get the Iraq War included in the budget so we can see the whole thing. But that discussion didn't last very long. We moved quickly to get back to supplementals.
Yeah, I mean, when I worked on the House Armed Services Committee about 12 years ago.
Different world, wasn't it?
A different world, but I went there, this was the immediate post-Cold War period, so we really sought, this was under the Democrats as well, we really sought to address a peace dividend, cutting back the military budget, reprioritizing federal spending to some extent, and trying to really figure out a new post-Cold War threat assessment and what back then was called bottom-up review, the BUR, the B-U-R, you may recall. And what I learned on a couple of years of working there on the committee is that a lot of the military budget is so enormous. It's the biggest committee in Congress, 55 members of Congress on the committee, almost all with military bases in their district. It really is, to a large extent, not about national security. It's about pork and bringing home the bacon to your district and keeping your military base open. We went through 4 or 5 base closure rounds, what we'll call the BRAC, the Base Realignment and Closure Commission rounds then too, in which eventually we closed 350 military bases here and 100 or more abroad too. And there was such a food fight over whose base we would close and who wouldn't and the like. The budget at that point began to wind down a bit, particularly after the Reagan build-up previously. But Bush has built it back up again, and it's like drunken sailors up there these days buying weapon systems. And what strikes me is when we always talk about public health and poverty issues and environmental protection and cleanup issues, we're talking always in maybe the hundreds of thousands of dollars or the millions, and in most cases in the hundreds of millions. In the military budget, we're always talking with 3 more zeros at least. I mean, it's billion, a billion here, a billion there. My last year there on the committee, the shipbuilding industry and their representatives, it's usually the Deep South and Virginia and sometimes the Northwest, came in with, for example, a request for CVN-76, the Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier, which is now afloat and built. Navy didn't want it, didn't need it at that point, but in fact it was built, and it was built because the congressman came in and said, could we find, it was like $1.5 billion in small change in the budget back then to keep the shipbuilding industry moving forward, and they did. So, billion here, billion there, in poverty alleviation and all the other humanitarian issues we're talking about. It's just a lot of money that how we break through, this conundrum, I think, and of misspent and misprioritized issues. I don't know for sure, but we've got to do it.
Well, I think we may have actually an opportune moment in history to break through. I think, well, first off, you can see in the polls about the war, the vast majority of Americans opposed the Iraq occupation. They wanted it over. They wanted troops home. It's like in the 70% level. Even among Republicans, we did a poll about our voters' pledge on Voters for Peace website. Only support candidates who want to end the war and oppose future wars of aggression. We thought it was pretty strong language, not just end the Iraq War, but prevent future wars. That's a pretty radical thought in the United States. And we found in a poll that majority of Democrats, majority of independents, and even 26% of Republicans all supported that pledge. And that was a couple of years ago. I mean,
March of 2006.
March 2006, and so and I think since then the public opinion is even stronger. What we've seen in Iraq, and I think what we're seeing in Afghanistan, and I think the public is getting aware of this, is that the military does not have the answers. They can't solve these problems. They can't win every battle. That being a superpower does not mean you can win every battle you fight. And if we can't handle Iraq and Afghanistan, who can we handle? So I think there may be an opportunity to start to really reach out to the public and get people energized to say, military is not the solution. And I see a lot of these, even the CNA report, which you rightly talked about, one of their concerns is protecting the military infrastructure. But they also talk about bringing climate change into a national security discussion so people understand that the poverty, the deforestation, the famine resulting, the flooding, that this leads to war and this leads to insecure countries. And so people are getting that. So I think there's a real opportunity by bringing these issues together with climate change and the failure of the Iraq occupation to really get the public to see that we have to change directions. And this is also coming at a time when there's increased awareness about the failing infrastructure, increased awareness about inability to provide basic health care to people, the cost of college education getting out of control. Over the years of, 60 years of investment in the military economy, that has a compounding effect on disinvestment in the civilian economy. And people are starting to feel it. That's why we've lost our infrastructure, we're losing our jobs, the middle income is remaining stable at best, poverty is increasing, is because we're investing in military at the cost of civilian. I think this election year is a great opportunity for this discussion. John McCain, who has done some good things on climate change, is not totally wrong on these issues. I was listening to his speech last night accepting the Wisconsin victory. And he was talking about how we have to get on the whole country unified.
All the resources
bring our resources together, get the country unified, getting on a war footing. And I was hoping to face the climate change, to fight the war on terror. And so I think that's, and then on the other hand, you hear Barack Obama, who I have different disagreements on his votes on the Iraq war. He supported all the Bush's funding requests, and so I have problems with him. But he also raises the issue in an interesting way. He says, I don't want to just end the Iraq occupation, I want to end the mindset that led to the war. Now, when we talk about ending the mindset, we are talking about the military-industrial complex. We're talking about the hard-right pro-Israel lobby. We're talking about the fossil fuel industry that benefit from the militarized approach. And so that could be a very interesting debate.
Campaign finance.
Campaign finance will come up as well. So we have the opportunity, and whether the candidates are perfect for us to make these points, the campaign year is an opportunity to really discuss these in ways that they haven't been discussed before. And so climate change is peaking, the failure of the military is peaking, and the problems in our infrastructure are peaking, and it's a great opportunity to really get the public to rally behind this and make this the agenda for the next Congress.